Welcome to the Disney Scrapbook, where together we take a journey to explore Disney history from 50 years ago. My name is Nolan. Today I thought we'd take a second look at Disney's 88-minute nature film, The Best of Walt Disney True-Life Adventures, released October 8th, 1975. The Best of Walt Disney True-Life Adventures is a feature-length compilation of excerpts from Disney's award-winning True-Life Adventures documentary series, produced between 1948 and 1960. Here in part 2 of the Disney Scrapbook's insightful review of these entertaining and fascinating films, we will research the film's incredible photographers, the long-reaching arm of Disney's advertising machine, and how the True-Life Adventures transformed Disney's film distribution. If you have not yet had the opportunity to watch part 1 of the series, on the motivation for and the incredible music within these films, then I suggest you start there. African animals were filmed with cameras encouraged by the Milottes, who toured Africa for 3 years in their specially adapted Dodge Power Wagon truck, which served as a home, office, and mobile filming platform, allowing them to approach large animals up close, to record both the image and sound with on-the-spot tape recordings. Also, Alfred built an innovative water tank to film hippos underwater. Ultimately, only 6% of the footage shot was used in the final film. Alfred and Milotte thought that the most impressive scenes that they experienced on this tour were the incredible panoramas of the plains, which were filled with gazelles, zebra, wildebeest, etc., the prey of the African lion. These documentarians were known for their dedication to capturing authentic wildlife behavior by remaining passive observers as much as possible, moving beyond conventional filmmaking techniques to both study and live within the environments they photographed. In order to capture striking buffalo footage on the Crow Indian Reservation in Montana, photographer Tom McHugh utilized an old Native American trick, covering himself as well as his camera with an old buffalo hide, enabling him to wander amidst the herd. Survival and reproduction are explored in Secrets of Life, which included some of the first ever stop-motion photography of plants growing, and a bee sequence that took 3 years to film. As the series of True-Life Adventures progressed, not all shots occurred in the wild. To facilitate tracking small creatures and keeping them in focus, UCLA film student Paul Kenworthy invented the first film camera where the cameraman looked through the lens, along with the entomologist and pioneering cinematographer who specialized in macro photography, Robert Crandall. A tabletop terrarium, as close to reality as possible, was set up, enabling the filming of film sequences like the battle between the wasp and tarantula, allowing this sequence to be shot multiple times from different angles, enabling the use of regular film shooting protocols just as you would with humans. An anecdote that was often told about the making of the True-Life Adventures by Walt's nephew Roy occurred during one of Roy's first jobs at the studio. He was working as an assistant editor to Lloyd Richardson on The Vanishing Prairie, when Walt watched what should have been a hysterical scene of ducks flying in and landing on frozen water. However, the cameraman had cut the shot short and missed the climactic scenario. Seeing the potential gag in the scene, Walt demanded the rest of the footage, which despite extensive searching did not exist. So Jim Alger decided to send a team out to manufacture the conclusion to the visual gag. Hence, on a frozen lake in Minnesota, ducks were slid along the ice to crash into other stationary ducks. Filming occurred in slow motion, with a second camera held on a group of stationary ducks standing on the ice, who all turned and looked over at the incoming duck, before attempting to no avail to run away on the ice, resulting in an absolutely hilarious scene, especially when put to music. Although probably one of the most infamous stage filmings of a Disney True-Life Adventure film was for White Wilderness, which purported to show lemmings in the high Canadian Arctic committing mass suicide by leaping off cliffs into the sea. But according to naturalist and wildlife photographer Bill Carrick, who'd worked for Disney, the reality was that the scene was recreated in Kenmore, Alberta, where an Arctic set was built. Lemmings were purchased for 25 cents apiece from Eskimo children in Churchill. Spinning turntables were constructed and covered in snow. When the lemmings were let loose on the set to run around, they were then filmed jumping into the river Bow, with scenes created using tight camera angles and fast-paced editing with repetitive use of shots. Hence, thanks to help from the narration, a myth was created that lemmings commit mass suicide, but in actual fact they exhibit dispersal behaviors. Some critics condemn Disney for using staged shots. Nonetheless, the photographers defended their actions in the name of getting excellent, groundbreaking quality photography. Renowned New York Times film critic Bosley Crowther criticized Disney for repeatedly using narration in the True-Life films to anthropomorphize non-human animals, and took issue with the use of editing techniques for comedic effect. Most early wildlife film was human-driven safari and far-off travelogue fare, often representing animals as expendable and exploitable. The True-Life Adventures established animals as their protagonists in stories devoid of human interference. Public understanding of wildlife and ecosystems was shaped through educational programs and classroom use. The films were released to widespread acclaim for their technical mastery, educational impact, and cultural significance. They were wildly popular with viewers, and critical reception was overwhelmingly favorable. Significant costs were saved in the creation of these films by shooting with lighter and more portable 16mm cameras. It was understood that the unpredictable behavior of wildlife would mean that a considerable amount of the footage shot would be unusable. Filming occurred on Kodak's consumer Kodachrome film, which provided beautiful, color-crisp, sharp images. However, when this film was blown up to 35mm, the industry standard for theatrical and high-quality television production, a significant increase in contrast, darker shadows, and generally washed-out highlights were noticed. A second problem was a distortion in color. Thankfully, the indispensable Ub Iwerks was on the case, and duplicated the film for the use of color and contrast-correcting masks, which he subsequently passed for his newly developed optical printer with a wetgate, to remove the light scattering and scratches on the original film. Despite this, specks are still visible on the screen when you watch the digitized versions of these films. Triggered by RKO's refusal to distribute The Living Desert, the True-Life Adventure series pushed Disney to break off its long-standing deal with RKO Video Pictures, which had been handling Disney films since 1937. June 23, 1953 saw Disney take the leap to establish the Buena Vista Distribution Company. Extending the True-Life Adventures even further, Dell Comics created a new category of Disney comics, Dell Nature Classics, using the True-Life films as models for each issue. which depicted animal behavior and emphasized conflicts between predators and prey. Additionally, the True-Life Adventures inspired a daily newspaper comic strip, written by studio employees Dick Humer and George Wheeler, who provided the illustrations. Each issue appeared under the title Walt Disney's True-Life Adventures, as a single panel rather than a strip format. Syndicated by King Features, the comic appeared 6 days a week in newspapers throughout the United States from 1955 to 1971. Children's story and coloring books were also created. Furthermore, TV episodes of the films and their behind-the-scenes footage appeared under the Adventureland segment of Walt Disney's anthology TV series. Launching on December 5, 2006, all of the True-Life Adventure films were released on DVD, over 4 discs as part of the Walt Disney Legacy Collection line. I find this film both entertaining and informative. The photography is spectacular. However, some of the information can be misleading at times. If you decide to watch the whole of the True-Life Adventure series, I suggest spacing them out, as the narration can become monotonous. The best of Walt Disney's True-Life Adventure's climactic scene spectacularly combines the beauty of sight and sound with an excerpt from the 1953 featurette Waterbirds, set to Liszt's Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy an evening of groundbreaking photography with an educational intrigue and would like to watch the best of Walt Disney's True-Life Adventures for yourself, it is available on iTunes, YouTube, Amazon Prime, and Google Play. If you enjoyed this type of 50th anniversary content, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. The Disney Scrapbook will be producing other 50th anniversary content throughout the year that will include reviews of Disney films, LPs, books, and book content. See you again soon. TTFN, stop for now.